Alright girls, so this is what we made in class a couple of days ago. I made an apron with pockets here, and it's actually reversible. The back side does not have pockets. And I actually used 3 different fabrics. One for the ties, one for the back, and one for the front. And the ties, as long as they complement or blend with either side, but it doesn't have to. But you can actually make the pocket a different color too. So I'm actually on the one I'm going to make and show y'all now. I'm actually going to do it a little bit different. Okay, but first let's talk about the pattern. Here's our main body pattern. We're going to cut 2 of these, one for the front, one for the back. This is our tie pattern. We're going to cut 3 of these. And this is our pocket pattern. We're going to cut 1 of these. Or 2, you can put a pocket on both sides if you want to, but I'm only going to show you one side. And so this time we'll actually be dealing with 6 pieces. So this will be a more complicated pattern than we've done so far, and you will not be able to wait until Tuesday morning before fuel to get this done. You're just not going to have time to do it. It's not going to look good. So take the time. You've got 2 weeks off to do a little bit of this each week. 30 minutes each week or an hour each week. Maybe a 2-hour project. Alright. Here's something you cannot forget, especially you little girls. You're going to need to shorten the top, probably. Hold this up, like pretend there are ties here, so hold this at your waist. And then shorten this to about how far you want it to come up on your chest. This is where I shortened mine. I'm kind of a short-waisted person. The ones of you that are tall, you may want it all the way. But for you younger girls, you're definitely going to want to shorten that. You may even want to come down like that. Then you're also probably going to want to shorten it here. I'm leaving mine the full length because I like mine long because I'm messy. But your pocket's going to be down here at the bottom. So, like, if you're a younger girl and you had this whole length, this is going to be down at your knees and you're not even going to be able to reach your pocket. So you're maybe going to want to fold yours up like that. So do not forget that step before you cut out your fabric. That's going to change whether or not it fits. And if you're really skinny, you may want to even fold the side in as well. Alright, so I've already got my pieces cut. But I do not have them ironed. So y'all do it right and iron them. Mine are not horribly wrinkled, so I'm hoping that I can get by. So this is going to be my front. This is going to be my back. And I'm actually going to put my pocket piece, a piece of contrasting fabric on the front. And then my ties are going to be this fabric. So it's going to be a little bit different than how we did the one in class. Alright, the first thing we're going to make is our ties. And I want to show you something here, how not to do something. Y'all have already learned that that's what I'm good at, is being messy. Okay, right here, I cut my pieces, and I went ahead and sewed 2 of them up, and I immediately saw there was a problem. When I folded it over, after I turned it right side out, and I folded it over and started top stitching, see how we ended up with a wrinkle right here? And it's twisted. You can see how it's not laying down nice and flat. It's twisting. So I was like, okay, something was wrong when I cut the fabric out. So I went, here's a way you can check. And my pattern probably was crooked. But I was going by, I told y'all it takes me hours to cut out patterns for 12 girls. So this right here is probably slightly crooked. And if the one I cut's crooked, one of you girls is probably going to have a crooked one in your pattern kit. So here's how you check it to see if you cut something crooked or if your pattern was crooked. Fold it over and see what it looks like. I've got, if the sides match. Well, I've got a little bit sticking out here, but that shouldn't be enough to make it crooked. What about when I turn it over this way? Alright, now I'm seeing a problem. I've got a huge piece sticking out here. So here's where we're going to straighten it up. I'm going to fold it again. And then I'm going to trim off anywhere. I'm going to trim my sides to get them more nice and straight. You can trim off anything that's sticking out. Let's go back and do it this way. Trim that up there a little bit. It looks pretty crooked right there too. I may trim trim that up. Because it's going to make your tie be twisted. And if you're like me, it probably is not really going to matter to you, but I don't want Ella to have a messy piece. I know that'll get on her nerves. So I'm going to show her how to do it right with flawed patterns. Okay, now, don't do like me, iron this. You're going to fold it over, and it's more important that your edges line up when you're sewing rather than your ends. If you fold it over and you have your edges matched and you look and your end is not exactly right, you can trim that, make it straight. But if you line up your ends and then your sides don't really line up, it's going to twist after it's sewed. Alright, so line up these edges and iron it flat. It's going to solve a lot of problems. Alright, now we're going to leave both ends open. Oh, here I've got my salvage edge left on here. Cut that off. Okay, come over here. Alright, we're leaving the ends open because I'm going to show y'all the pin trick that we did in class for turning something skinny right side out quick. So I'm putting this and just my foot to the edge, which is my needle is probably going to be about 3/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric, and that's just sort of a favorite seam size that I like. But you can go 1/2 inch, or you can go, well, I wouldn't really recommend going closer to the edge because we don't want it to pull out. And I still didn't get mine straightened up because I can feel it twisting. See that's how it's starting to twist. I'm going to have a little bunch in it. So you might want to take a long ruler, the yardstick, and lay it on the edge of your pattern or your fabric and straighten it up. Use your chalk. Draw a straight line. Make sure you got straight edges. Okay, now here's the pin trick. This time I've got me a big old pin. It's easy for me to find. Stick it in. I'm sticking it in my seam because I can go through 2 pieces of fabric, but I showed y'all in class just, you know, 1 piece like that of fabric or the edge of the seam. And then I'm going to turn that in side my tunnel there, put it in the hole, and I'm with my finger, I'm pushing the back of that pin, and I can feel it right here. See it? See the edge of it? And I've got something to feel of, to push. Then when I get as much material wadded on there as I can, I hold on to the edge of the pin right there and simply roll that off. And it's way, way faster to turn something right side out than it is to do it with just your fingers. See how I'm pushing that pin? There it comes out to the end. Hold the pin and just roll that fabric. You know, it was way quicker than doing it with our fingers. And you could, in the book bag option video, you could actually leave both ends of that strap open and do that as well instead of taking the full 5 minutes to turn it right side out. Okay, my thread's already pulled out. I'm having some kind of tension problem or something because it pulled out all in class and it's pulling out still here at home. So I need to take the time to... Let's try to loosen the tension just a little bit and see if that's what's wrong. Okay, now go and iron this. Iron it down flat. And when you work your edges to the end of your seam, make sure that's nice and flat like that when you iron it down. And then when you start making your seam, the first side you're going to sew is the side with the seam. Don't top stitch this side where we folded it over first, because you'll never get this right here right. Do the top stitch the side with your seam. But go ahead and iron yours down. Do it the right way. Don't do it the sloppy way like me. Okay, I'm getting down here to the end of my strap. Remember, both ends are open. One end I'm just leaving the way it is because it's going to go inside our apron, so it doesn't really matter. This is the other open end. So I'm actually rolling it in a little bit with my fingers. You know, maybe 1/2 inch. If you actually measured what, maybe 1 inch, whatever I rolled inside there. And now see, when I mash it down and I top stitch it, it's going to seal that off. And it'll look just like all the other sides. Sort of get to the edge there. Turn it. Top stitch across it. And then top stitch the other side. And see, now just whatever fabric is left, this is your folded side. Then you just make it nice and flat and top stitch on the top of it. And you've got a strap. And that's making a strap with a folded piece of fabric. Okay, I've already made all 3 of my straps now, so I've got all 3 straps here completed. I'm going to lay them aside for when we need them later. So the first thing we're going to do on our pattern is we're going to take our pocket piece. And we are going to make a hem on one end of it, kind of like we did on our pillow pattern. And remember what I told y'all. Fold it very lightly. Not lightly. A very small fold over. And iron that. Do that all the way down. Then after it's ironed and it's, you know, nice and stiff, got your tight crease there, then fold it one more time. And that's what we're going to sew. And when you sew it right here, can you zoom up close to the needle? When you're putting your stitch in, you want your needle to be close to the edge of this to seal that hem tight against the fabric. So I'm doing my first one. I'm not doing mine right because it should be ironed. I'm just sort of ironing mine with my finger and then folding it the second time. Okay, here we have our pocket piece hemmed on one side. So this is going to be the front of my apron. So I'll lay my pocket piece down here, matching at the edges. And remember what I told y'all in class about if you want a curved edge apron, and for some reason when you see a lot of them in the store, they are curved edges. You can do that and then cut that excess off. But it doesn't really matter to me, so I'm leaving mine square. Okay, we're going to pin it on. And then we're going to sew, go ahead and sew, and I'm going to do it right this time, Megan, because I forgot in class. So we take our measurement and measure it, divide it by 3 because I want 3 pockets. And it's 25, so that's roughly 8 inches. 3 times 8 is 24, so I'm going to mark it 8 inches from the edge, 8 inches from here. That probably makes the middle pocket, yeah, 9 inches. That's close enough for me. If you want to be exact, you can do it 8.5, each one 8.5, or 8 1/4. Whatever the exact part would be, but Or you could even make 4 pockets if you want to. Divide it by 4. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin. You know what? We definitely don't want this to shift. So I'm going to put a pin close enough to my marks to hold that secure. Because that's one thing that we do not want to shift on us, and since we're going to pick it up, there's a good chance it would when we would be sewing, and it definitely would look bad. Alright, I'm going to take it back to the machine. And we are going to top stitch it. See, I remembered this time. Okay, so I'm just putting it on there. See where I got it pinned? See my chalk marks? And if you're unsure of yourself, go ahead and draw your chalk mark. You know, mark it 8. Lay your ruler and do a straight line all the way. I'm going to eyeball it. Definitely do your reverse up here at the top several times. I'm doing it twice because this will receive pressure when you use these pockets. Every time you stick something in the pocket, it's going to pull against that seam. So if you just put a single stitch right there, it's going to come out pretty soon. So I actually did my reverse 2 times there to make that a stronger beginning stitch. So, alright, y'all may have noticed the video suddenly changed. We had a slight malfunction with the middle of the video not uploading. So I've had to cut out yet a 3rd pattern and get it to the point of where the video cut off. And so once we get through the part that was missing, then it'll revert back to the original video with a different pattern and obviously different fabric. So this is where we were at when it messed up, as we were sewing these 2 seams right here to make our pockets, and I already went ahead and sewed them. So remember what I said about reverse stitching right here a couple of times to make it strong. Okay, now in class, I actually sewed this on all the way around. But I've done this once without doing it and having it pinned. It holds it pretty securely. And when we put our other piece on, then we're going to sew it all in at once. So you can sew it all in now, or it'll be sewed in when you put this other piece on. Alright, now here's our other piece, our back piece. And so we put our right sides together. Remember that. Put good sides facing each other. And line it up as closely as possible. And this actually maybe worked out for the good, because the original video I had lots of flaws and mistakes that happened because this was not ironed. I tried to get by without doing it, and it wadded up when I was sewing. We had a lot of problems. So this time I did it right and I ironed it. So maybe there will be no problems while we're sewing. Alright. So we pin this really, really good. Put probably at least 3 pins, maybe even 4 across the bottom here, because that's sort of a wide stretch. And we need to hold this together. So I want to get this pinned really good. Okay, now remember, we're going to sew around all the sides, but we're going to leave our 2-inch opening on each side for our straps to go in. And then we're going to leave this top completely open, because that's how we're going to sew it, turn it right side out. Okay, so what I showed you in class, our straps are approximately, and this pattern is actually, I'm making this for my niece. She likes blue. So, and I've got the blue pocket on there and some blue straps. And I'm changing my thread out to where everything's going to be stitched with blue thread. But I cut this one down, like what I was talking about in the pattern earlier. This one is, I took off about 1 inch on the sides. I took off several inches right here, made it shorter, and I took off probably that much at the bottom. So this pattern overall is much smaller. This will fit, my niece is, she's 9, I think. So that would fit a smaller girl. Okay, and so our straps are still about the same width as, hold on, I'll draw a measuring tape. Okay, as our other straps, because I still use the tie pattern and everything. And you can really see the top stitching on these because I did it in blue thread to contrast on purpose. And I also went back when I was making these and done these the right way too. I ironed them before I sewed it together and before I top stitched it. And as you can see, it is drastically flatter and there was no twisting. So that proved me up. Iron it, do it the right way, and you'll have way less problems. Alright, these are approximately 1.5 inches wide, so we're going to do a 2-inch opening. Now remember, we're going to come down through here with our seam, so we're going to allow for that. And let me do the darker marker so you can see that here. You know, I say a seam, usually seams can be up to 1/2 inch, so I'm going to allow 1/2 inch there for a seam. Sometimes I don't make my seams quite that big. And then I'm going to do 2 inches for my opening. And so I've got to remember, do not sew across that. I got to leave that open for my straps. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to measure about 1/2 inch. Leave that for my seam to come down. And then do my 2-inch opening. So I allowed 1/2 inch for my seam to come down through here. It's going to end about right there. Then I'm going to stop and skip this area and continue sewing here. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now I want to show y'all something over here on the machine. You know I kept saying I was having tension problems. I tried loosening the tension, I tried tightening the tension, and I finally determined that my problem was down here in my bobbin. So everybody's machine is different, and some people's, especially newer machines, they may not even adjust it all on the bobbin. Or if they do, it's your owner's manual should tell you. Just look that up, adjusting the tension on the bobbin. But on mine, there's a screw. And here's another thing that you want to check if you're having trouble with your bottom tension. The first thing to check is make sure that your bobbin rolls up in a way to where that when you put it in, see how it the thread would go in this hole right there, and it would be unrolling in the direction that I'm pulling the thread. Now see, if I took this out and put it in to where the thread was going, that it was having to pull away from that, see now it's rolling that way, that's going to make it a tighter tension. So the directions tell you to install it the direction that it's rolled up. Okay, so there's my thread in there. But this screw causes this piece right here, when I tighten the screw, it causes this flap to mash down on my thread tighter, which makes it resist more. It won't come out as fast. There's more tension on it. And so that's the problem I'm having, is it's pulling too tight. It's making my stitches actually pucker. So I'm actually going to take my little bitty tiny screwdriver here and loosen mine. I'm reversing that screw just a tad bit to hopefully loosen that and see if that's where the problem was. And what's weird is the tension was correct, and after sewing a lot, the tension is not correct. And I don't know if just the vibration can make it tighten up. I don't know what makes it change. But anyway, sometimes you just have to go in there and adjust that. Okay, it's going to start up here at the top. Oh, I forgot an important step. This is a thing that messes up too. Is to check it for anything sticking out. Okay, right here I've got a little bit. Lord, these scissors are ancient. A little bit over here. These scissors. It's not really enough. enough to, let me turn it over and check this way. Oh, see, we got a big old piece sticking out right here. Remember what I told y'all in class, that if you don't get your edges trimmed up even, so turn it over both sides and check for any material sticking out of the pattern. Because when you're sewing, if you're on the side and underneath it's shy, then you're going to sew right off the edge of your fabric, and you're going to find it out, figure it out when you turn it right side out. Then you'll have a hole because you missed a piece of fabric. Okay, so now we're putting that seam in. Alright, so here I am to the first place with the tie, and there's my mark where my seam is going to end. Okay, now here's our 2-inch opening, so I'm going to skip that and start on the other side of it. And I'm probably doing roughly a 1/2 inch seam. I know I have a tendency to do the 3/8 seam, but this time I'm going wide to be safe, and I'm doing a. And if your material starts wadding up like that, then you just take your pins out and smooth it with your hand. Since you pinned it good and you ironed it, it should not move much at all, so it shouldn't really be a problem. Alright, I'm just going to continue sewing around here all the way, and then I'll come back to you when I get it finished. You don't have any way to stop that. Scissors up and things. If I look, they weigh 5 pounds.
Hey, down there. Okay, I'm gone. Start back.
Yeah. Back over here to the table. Okay.
I'll say good.
You showing all of it? Okay. So here I've sewed here. I left my space that I skipped here for that to be my tie to be inserted, and I got my space here. Get all my pins out because now we've got to turn it right side out. Okay, now remember what I told y'all about when you turn something right side out, if it has a square pointy corner like that, to clip your corner across it. Now do not go into your stitching, you'll have a hole. And that just keeps it from, when you turn it right side out, keeps it from balling up, because those corners are going to try to occupy the same space. Okay, now in class, I clipped this. When you sew a curve, even if it's like round like a pillow, so it would be an outside curve or it's an inside curve like this, you can clip it so that the material can come closer together or pull further apart as in an outside curve. But I tried this on the other, because this is a very gradual curve, and I tried it without clipping it, and it laid down just fine. Sometimes it will wad up and twist, and you can't get your seam to lay down flat when you turn it right side out. So I'm actually just only going to do like 1 or 2 cuts in this whole curve, since it laid down fine without me clipping it. So 2 clips and I should be good. This is a gradual curve, so that rule is not going to apply as much as a sharp curve would. Alright, so here's our opening that we left at the top of the pattern. So we just reach down in there and get our corner and pull it out. Turn our apron right side out. It's kind of the fun part to me, because you always get to see if you did it right, see what your product looks like. There's our hole for our tie. Get our corners turned out here. Yeah, see, we clipped that and that come out pretty. Of course, if you did a curved one, then you didn't have to worry about that. All right, now you can still see my chalk marks where I actually marked it all the way down earlier, so I could take a damp sponge or a damp rag and wipe that off. But I'll do that last. Now, that's actually how you're supposed to do it, sewing the pocket on first. But y'all know how in class I forgot. And so I actually just wadded it up, like inserted my foot in there and managed to sew it that way. But you could actually, after this apron is completely finished, you could pin this through all pieces and top stitch that. Yes, it's going to leave a piece on the back, but I mean, it's the back. Of course, if you're wanting it to be reversible to where you can use this side, it might look weird having 2 seams down in here. But anyways, it is possible. Okay, so now what we're supposed to do is take our ties. And remember, I hemmed one side, or turned in and top stitched it, not hemmed. And I didn't the other because I knew I was going to be inserting one side in here. Oh, take your fingers and kind of turn that in a little bit. See how I've probably got maybe like a 1/2 inch the fabric turned in there, and insert this a good maybe 1 inch into your fabric. You definitely want it in there far enough to where when you top stitch over it, it catches. And pin that on. Here's my other strap. Turning making sure I have a turned in piece of fabric there, inserting my strap and putting it in there a good inch maybe. Want it to definitely catch. Pinning it in. And now we're going to do our the top, where we have the whole top open, and turn that in also a good 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch probably. You could do it as less as a 1/2 inch. I might have a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch there. So I'll turn that in. You should iron that. Then put your neck piece, and I did this neck piece, this last tie, I actually did it blue. So you can do everything a different color. You can have a multicolored apron and it actually looks just fine. Okay, pin that in place. And now we're ready to top stitch everything. Okay, so now we have our apron body, and I ironed it. So we're going to top stitch along the edges here. But first, we're going to secure our 2 ties in our hose, because when we top stitch it, that'll fasten it. One of these was shorter, it was the neck piece. There we go. Okay, so I just open up my little hole and kind of, you want to get closer so you can see how this folds in here. I'm going to turn the fabric in about 1/2 inch or whatever your seam was. Mine was about 3/8, so turn it in about 3/8 there. So that's what it would look like if it was top stitched closed. I'm going to insert my tie in there. Make sure you insert it far enough for, see, I inserted about that far. And secure it closed with a pin. I'm going to do that with the other side. Alright, this one's already turned in, so turn that in with your fingers. Put your strap in there. I inserted mine about 1 inch inside the hole. And I'm pinning it. Now, I'm going to start up here, and I'm ready to stop top stitch. No, I'm not. First, I need to do this. Turn this in, same way. And I usually do this one a little more. Rather than my 3/8 seam, I go a little more, every bit of 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Turn that in. And you can go ahead and iron it. I'm just going to sort of iron it with my fingers a little bit there. And then put your strap in there. Your neck strap. This is going to be the part that goes around your head. Make sure you don't get that twisted. Make sure that's, and mine was. Got that inserted about 1 inch. And I'm also gonna pin those in. Now we're just going to top stitch all along this edge and around the bottom all the way up here. Just like we did this one. Actually, I didn't show y'all that in class, but see how it's just top stitched. And when okay, so here I am top stitching. And I went almost all the way around the apron, and here's one of my ties I've got pinned in. So I'm going to hold it in place there. Top stitch over it. Get a reverse, do a couple of stitches in reverse just to make it nice and strong so it won't pull out there. And so when you've got your corners, your edges ironed down flat, it's pretty easy. You don't really got to fight with it. Sew right along the edge there. And there we are, we're finishing up. Alright, let me show you what the completed project looks like. So there we go, we've got apron number 2. And so it's top stitched all the way around, so our ties and our neck is sewed into place. Now I think this would be cute to put a little something here in the middle. Maybe like the person that's going to, their initial, or something that says cook. Buttons in the shape of a heart. All different things, but that's another video for another day.